So you're like a child that's wandered in the movie theater halfway through and you're wondering what's going on. This is Donny Cast number 20 on the Good Line, the Greater Good for the 24th of June 2022. And let's get into your shotgun blast, your stupid normie face. So good old, God Chief Justice himself, Clarence Thomas, laughing today because, I I I may not always agree with a lot of things that the conservatives do, and I may not always agree with the outcomes or the ways that we get to certain outcomes. I should put it more succinctly. But the one thing that I do enjoy is being able to laugh at all the stupid people that are fucking wrong when it comes to these things. So to not bury the lead today, the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade. That's the ruling that happened back when that basically said that there's a constitutional right towards abortion. What this does, because this is the actual case behind it, is Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, which challenged a Mississippi law that banned most abortions after 15 weeks. Lower court citing a previous ruling in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, preventing states from banning abortion within the first 24 weeks of gestation, had prevented Dobbs from being enacted, which the Supreme Court just reversed. Basically, all this does is it says, hey, remember that we have a 10th Amendment and you don't have a constitutional right to an abortion. So we're going to kick it back to the states, and some states you may not like because they're going to be like, well, since you don't have a constitutional right to abortion, we're going to outlaw it. In other states, like California, is going to go, oh, you like abortions? We'll let you scramble the kid's head after he's born in the third trimester. So that's all this really does. I am rather neutral on my position of abortion. I think there's arguments to be had on both sides. I do think overall it should be an individual states' rights issue, and the overall morality of it left to those states to decide themselves. That's about the extent of it. But what I do find funny is that they're having to gear up the Capitol Police riot squad because they're expecting stupidity. And of course, the left is just functionally retarded. It's moving forward to the fact that yesterday I thought it was a very weak ruling by the Supreme Court in regards to New York's ability to not hand out concealed weapons permits, because I think it's a punt that'll just turn around and make it so the states try and make it as expensive and difficult to get the uh, concealed weapons permit. The sheriff of San Diego, just to understand, San Diego is kind of a purple area in California, already said that like he's not going to change how he's been doing things. The sheriff up there in San Francisco has already got dozens of requests for concealed weapons permits, and they're like, we're just going to go about our business. And they haven't, I think if I remember correctly, they haven't handed out a concealed weapons permit in San Francisco in like 2 years. So this gives you an idea where we're going. And good old Merrick Garland, who was nominated by Barack Obama, at the end, that got blocked because, when Scalia died, Merrick Garland couldn't keep his fucking activist suckhole shut when it came to weighing in on the Supreme Court ruling on New York yesterday for guns. He turned around, and this is an opinion article. We'll get into some of what it's talking about because it's also talking about a politicized raid on a former Trump attorney that happened yesterday. He opened his suckhole talking about, like they're going to essentially, uh, you know, uh, just past week on Thursday, following a historic 6-3 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that struck down a New York law for violating states' residents' Second Amendment right. Just remember all the time that it's literally in there, shall not be infringed. A DOJ spokeswoman released a statement saying, we respectfully disagree with the ruling. That's bad because, the DOJ is supposed to be apolitical in a way that the court does not need to be. Because the court is a hodgepodge of other administrations' Supreme Court justice picks. They are going to be inherently political, even if they pretend that they're not. the Justice Department, in order to operate, has to have the illusion of not nonpartisan politics, because otherwise they're just the political a political terrorist organization for the administration that they're serving. And that's what's occurring at this point. So coming out and releasing a statement saying that you respectfully disagree, which is basically a way of saying that the enforcement arm of law is going to screw over one of the three branches of justice or of government because they, again, respectfully disagree. It's a poor precedent to set. It's not the only time this has occurred, but it's just very poor. And in light of other things that's going on with our current DOJ that we're going to get into, the author of this article, I think is John Daniel Davidson. He put in there, there's no reason for the DOJ to weigh in on the matter or express any opinion whatsoever on the ruling, which I've said. Only an utterly politicized Justice Department hoping to undermine the Supreme Court's constitutional authority and sow seeds of nullification would issue such a statement. I already said all that, but that's what's in there. So we move forward to the raid that happened yesterday. Mind you, the January 6th committee is going on. They've had a year and a half to do an investigation and raid this guy's house, but they decided to do it, in the wee morning hours. A pre-dawn raid surfaced on Thursday of the U.S. House of Representatives committee probing the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol, its fifth hearing. This one centered on Trump's efforts to replace the acting U.S. Attorney General with Clark, a staunch supporter of Trump's false claims of election fraud. Nothing illegal about this. Why you would need to weaponize the DOJ to go kick in a door in the early morning during a show trial, I don't know, other than political motivations. So we move even further down the line, and we see that this fucking idiot of a human being, Adam Kinzinger, who's not seeking re-election in Illinois' 16th congressional district, he decided he was going to open his fucking highly intelligent fucking mind and spew it all over the world for this country to see, where he said, I want to take a moment now to speak directly to my fellow Republicans. Imagine the country's top prosecutor with the power to open investigations, subpoena, charge crimes, and seek imprisonment. Imagine that official pursuing the agenda of the other party instead of that of the American people as a whole. And if you're a Democrat, imagine the other way around, he said. You stupid, dumb fuck. We don't have to imagine. It not only is happening right now in this country, it happened under Obama with Eric Holder. You dumb motherfucker. So I bring this up because I do have good old Adam Kinzinger, who's a light colonel in the I think it's the Air National Guard. He's not seeking election. His 16th congressional district is heavily blue. I was looking it up beforehand. It's like 64% red. So whoever is running in there is probably going to run away the election. And again, like Liz Cheney, because she's the other lack of a way to put it, turncoat on the Republican turncoat on the January 6th commission. Whatever he's been doing is probably not going to be looked very highly upon within his district. It actually puts in here that he's going after guns. He's open to assault weapons ban, which overall on a Republican side is not going to be looked very well upon. And you can kind of see on a Wikipedia page how it's doctored towards trying to paint him in a favorable light, because it says Kinzinger is favorable of allowing concealed carry of firearms across state lines. He's one of 8 Republicans who voted to pass the bipartisan background check act of 2021. Fuck you. Voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Again, like Liz Cheney, when I looked her up, it's trying to paint them as a functioning Republican. And whatever he's viewing from a reality standpoint to sit on the January 6th committee is one question, but the other thing of what's in his Cheerios in the morning that would lead him to make a comment about imagining the weaponization of the DOJ with the Attorney General. I don't know what you've been doing for the last like 20 years in this country because we've had a few issues with the weaponization of the DOJ. Um, and whatever you're doing as a politician or shoving things up your ass, as a lieutenant colonel, I don't know I don't know what you're experiencing because I'm just a dude reading fucking articles in the garage, and you are uh, theorizing about the possibility that the last attorney general could have been could have been weaponized. It didn't happen because Clark never got installed. Um, but I don't know where you're getting your news from. It's not the same place that I'm getting my news from. And like I said, I'm just sitting here. So as a sitting representative of the House, I don't know what you're fucking doing every day because it's not fucking reading the morning paper at the very least. Like go traffic children or something like that. So moving forward from that moron to other stuff that's going on within the Biden administration that shows that they have no functional clue of what's going on. Biden proposes strengthening Title IX protections for transgender students. And I'll just say this right now, like if he pulls this off, there's no point on having segregated sports. It just kills it. You don't need to have boys and girls sports or two classes. You just have an open division, because that's what this is going to essentially do. And you know, Title IX, if you're wondering, I will pull up the shitty Wikipedia page just to show that I put in a little effort today. It's the most commonly used name for the federal civil rights law in the United States that was passed as part of Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. It prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or other education program that receives funding from the federal government. So that kind of buries the lead. What it's been doing is it basically says that boys and girls should be treated equally, and there's been an issue with this being weaponized because, like in athletic programs, uh, boys and girls need to be funded equal. Men and women, if you, I can't, can we use those words? I don't fucking know. Men and women need to be can't use males and females because the Biden administration wants to ixnay that distinction. So boys and girls have to be receive the same funding, which means that a girls field hockey team has to be given the same amount of funding as say a boys football team. And you're treating apples and oranges like they're apples and apples. And that doesn't make any sense because depending on the popularity of the sport and the needs of the sport, the merit of this of the two sports, regardless of biological sex or gender, or whatever distinction you want to put, these things need to be funded the same. So what a lot of this was led to at the college level is the scrapping of men's sports because that funding needed to go to women's sports that were less popular. And this has been going on for a while. So now what Biden wants to do is essentially show how fucking retarded this use has been, because it hasn't been used appropriately, and it's also been used, Title IX, I believe it's been used for your sexy time assaults in the country. So it's been highly weaponized. Yeah, right there, sexual harassment and sexual violence. It's been highly weaponized as a tool of postmodernist feminists to attack perceived imbalances on how certain things have been used. And again, because this is it lacks a due process modifier behind it, it's just a very wonky thing. So like I think it's stupid what Biden's doing because obviously he's a fucking idiot. But what I do think is going to do is it's going to allow the law to be, or I shouldn't even say law. It's going to allow the provision, the article, to be looked at because of how fucking retarded it was done. Like, the road to hell is paved with fucking leftist intentions, and in this case, like this Title IX regulations, um, is going to show how broken it was, even if the good idea if fairy came down, touched someone, and said, "Hey, we should do this." So in this case, what this says is, this is a Fox News article. It says Team USA athlete says Biden's new Title IX regulations put a nail in the coffin, in death of female sports. I already said that. It's to put it bluntly, there's no point on having female sports anymore. This is putting wife beaters in the hen house because they get to identify as battered wives now. That I mean, that's what this does. So, like, what's the point on trying to pretend like you have men and women's sports because uh, uh, a man who's not good enough to qualify for the 100 meters for in a man sport can just arbitrarily decide that he's going to run in the number one spot in women's sports, because he gets to identify however he wants, and instead of creating certain criteria that we never thought we needed to create because they were so fucking evident, um, we need to create criteria now. And now what Biden is doing is he's going to murky the waters even more, to the point where we don't need to provide protections for women, which is funny because the lead today was Roe versus Wade, which their argument is women need special protections because they have certain biological characteristics that men don't, except for when it comes to dealing with another minority group. And then at that point, we're just going to shit all over them and say that you don't need these special protections. It would be nice if you had some consistency and weren't fucking retarded. So speaking of another Supreme Court case, we have Justice Alito's opinion deals major blow to Miranda rights. No, it doesn't. And I have another coarse, crass analogy to this. So basically, it's just basically a court case where a cop did not Mirandize an individual and kind of coerce a confession, and uh, they wanted to use 1983, which is essentially another civil rights act, Article 1983, Title 42, Article 1983, which is basically the color of authority. But there's some caveats to things. The main thing to understand what Alito's saying is that Miranda is a prophylactic to the Fifth Amendment. The dissenting opinion turned around and said, no, what this does is it destroys Miranda. Miranda is like, you have the right to an attorney. All things that are said against you, can be used against you in a court of law. This has already been used before in the courts, which is basically to say, like, just because you weren't Mirandized, it does not in and of itself destroy the confession. Once you are Mirandized, there's a lot going on, because in order to affirm your Fifth Amendment, you have to positively affirm it. You can't just sit there and be silent. You have to actually say, I want a lawyer and I don't want to talk. Otherwise, they can hammer you. There's a lot more going on here. Alito wrote, summing up what it boils down to is basically as follows: the Miranda rules are prophylactic rules that the court found to be necessary to protect the Fifth Amendment right against compelled self and incrimination. So it's illegal to not Mirandize someone, but that does not necessarily just give you the ability to sue based off of a 1983 violation. Which I would tend to agree with, because the chilling effect of someone operating in good faith would be too high, and it turns everything into this adversarial effect where I can't. As a law enforcement officer or agent of the state, I wouldn't have the ability to take the risk that I do or do not need to Mirandize you based off the situation. It's prophylactic. I should do it, but there are cases where I neither need to nor want to, and it gets really dicey in this case. There's some other things in this case that between the two individuals that aren't overwhelmingly relevant to the ruling that are just interesting for me. But at the end of the day, like, that's Alito's understanding of why you shouldn't be able to sue the state because of a lack of being Mirandized. And I tend to agree with this. Down here someplace, the three idiots that don't care what's written down, it's all about their fucking feelings. Kagan, Sotomayor, and Breyer, dumb fucking people that want to weaponize the Supreme Court to recast the America in the image that is not written down on paper. According to the dissenters, the Miranda rule of the Constitution's origin has constitutional underpinnings. I would tend to disagree with that, because that's an Miranda v. Arizona, if I remember correctly. So it took into the 60s to even attempt to say that there's constitutional underpinnings to it. So for what, like, nearly 200 years there weren't. So anyway, like, and there's an interesting point. She raised the comparisons of the place to the Dormant Commerce Clause. That's really interesting because that's a main portion of main purpose of government, and could end up coming back in a challenge to the Roe versus Wade case that came down the line when it's actually rewritten as law correctly, because that's not what it was done. Um, and if it implies from Congress constitutional authority over interstate commerce to enforce under 1983, how could that be Miranda, which the court has found necessary to safeguard the personal protections of the Fifth Amendment? That's not true. It is also enforceable. Kagan said the majority again has no answer. Um, I have an answer for you, moron. Um, uh, it's like this. This is what Alito's saying when he says it's prophylactic. I have a penis. The penis is the Fifth Amendment. Miranda is a condom. I can put the condom on the penis. But if I don't put the condom on the penis, I can still have sexual intercourse. So all Miranda is it's prophylactic means to avoid a rights violation. Does that make sense? Because you still have the Fifth Amendment. You still have your dick, regardless of whether you put a condom on it. You fucking morons. So let's see. Moving forward from that. So Joe Biden accidentally reveals cheat sheet, reminding him to take your seat. You give brief comments, 2 minutes, you depart. Meaning the main thing that I thought was funny. I don't know if there's a picture of it. Um, is that it actually has on there that like he's going to. Here's the picture. You can see it on the card if you look. It actually has on there that he's supposed to find a particular reporter and she's going to ask him a question. So he's prepped beforehand. We don't have a functioning free press in that regard because there's collusion between the quote unquote free press. Um, Liz Schuler, I think it is. You have collusion between the free press and the administration. It's a propaganda wing. That's just de facto. It's not really even worth arguing. Um, let's see. Biden dumb. Uh, so this is somewhat interesting. I normally don't like things like this. It's opinion pieces, but it's getting more and more plainly evident that the guy who's being pushed to the front runner or is being front runner for the 2024 DNC presidential nomination, because it's not going to be Biden, is going to be Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is a degenerate human being. He's functionally retarded and he's incompetent. If those two things can exist outside of each other, he's the guy who's being pushed to the front, and it actually points out in this article it's because he's got the money behind him. Um, and the good news is it almost guarantees that if there is an election fortification, the Republicans will win the 2024 White House because no one's going to vote for this fucking moron. The bad news is like this is the best that the Democrats are rolling out there. A guy who is corrupt and has no understanding of anything. He barely speak. And survived a recall in his own state that was probably heavily fortified, or no one gave a shit because fuck it, California's a fucking you know garbage pile at this point. Um, and I think I pointed out like no one outside the state of California likes California. I don't even think Californians like California at this point. So this is if this is your front runner, that just goes to show how badly you're running your party. You don't the closest thing to a potential Democratic presidential candidate that could have won was run out of the party, and that was Tulsi Gabbard. So I don't know who they have that could even potentially roll out there. And the funny thing is, Gavin Newsom may be their best chance at losing gracefully. Funny or not. So moving on to another functional or retarded Democrat governor, that's Kathy Hochul. She decided that she was going to open her suck hole about the Supreme Court ruling on the concealed carry, and she decided like we have limitations on the First Amendment. No, we don't, you dumb bitch. Um, she also decided to point out that uh well, I'm sorry. I can't call her dumb bitch. I can't because I don't know what the definition of woman is because Biden's taking apart the Title IX. So she's just a dumb uh thing. I don't fucking know. So anyway, I have another stupid analogy. So she brought up the fact that that we have limitations on the First Amendment, which we don't. In this case, she pointed out like you can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Yes, you can. That analogy is broken and it's stupid. And not only is it broken and it's stupid, there's certain criminal portions of that have to be applied. That includes like mens rea, the criminal mind and the overt criminal act, and these two things have to occur together, which means that like that, and you have to have a particular outcome more than likely to be charged. So you'd have to want to cause some type of damage or injury in the movie theater by yelling it out, and then that would have to cause the reaction, and the reaction would have to lead to something. Now, you don't need all these elements depending on the law, but that's basically how, if you theoretically were to yell fire in a crowded movie theater, and there was no fire and it caused the stampede, and then someone got hurt, how you would be potentially liable either criminally or civilly. Now, on top of that, you can yell fire in a crowded movie theater because if there is a fire, it is protected speech because, fuck you. You know, just like if you were contextually going to yell fire in a crowded movie theater and it was a joke, and would have been reasonable for you to assume it would be taken as a joke, and other people to take it as a joke, you could still say it. So she just functionally doesn't understand what she's talking about. She's just like, I'm going to parrot something, or my stupid fucking woman brain just can't parse this. So in her case, she's so overwhelmingly fucking stupid. She's such a fucking moron that she doesn't even understand that even with her analogy about yelling fire in a crowded movie theater, it doesn't hold water to this concealed carry Second Amendment case, because I can have a thought. I can have the thought of yelling fire in a crowded movie theater. It doesn't mean that I will be arrested for the thought crime. I actually have to commit the overt act. So in this case, this dumb fucking governor that you fucking voted for so you get the government you deserve, I can have the gun concealed in the movie theater. It doesn't become a crime until I whip that motherfucker out like my prophylactic dick and start waving it around, shooting willy-nilly. You dumb fucking cunt. Fuck, I hate fucking people. Shall not be infringed. And it shall not be infringed because do you want morons like this weaponizing their DOJ and sending them to your house in the early morning without a way to redress that? Not a call to violence. So, now we're gonna shift gears into again how fucking functionally fucking retarded our politicians are and other human beings are. How fucking sentient meat we are and how much of a mistake. So U.S. sends more long-range rocket launchers to Ukraine and new aid package. So that's 450 million more dollars just disappearing at this point. 450 million dollars is like pocket change to the U.S. government, and with our inflation, it doesn't fucking matter. That means I think it pointed out that's $6.1 billion since February 24th, but there's something like $55 billion in aid going to the Ukraine. So like, who fucking cares? And whether or not who knows what's going on there? The U.S. doesn't even know where the money's going. We don't even know how well the war is going from at least the optics of public opinion, because the propaganda is so high from everybody. So it's just $450 million. It's like, fuck it, who cares? Couldn't do anything better with that money. But as we move on to this, there's Canada, your weekly daily reminder that Canada is not a country. So what they're blocking the ability for a turbine to go to Germany or to go to Russia. Canada has a turbine that they are holding, that they're not sending to Germany, or excuse me, that they're not sending to Russian, because the Russia would put it on their their Nord Stream 1 pipeline that would be able to send gas to Germany. This is how stupid people are. So the Germany who hooked their wagons to Russia from an energy standpoint can't get gas from Russia, even if Russia want to send gas to Germany, because Canada is being fucking stupid and getting involved with all this politics instead of just letting other people run their countries and worry about, you know, your citizens. You have people playing fuck games like this, and we'll get into the actual fuck games that are going on with this shit, because again, and I would point out from the beginning, if there's a good guy in this, um it's not Ukraine. So Ukraine granted candidate status for European Union membership and blow to Putin. Part of the fucking reason why Russia supposedly invaded Ukraine is because they are saying, you are not listening to us in our problems that are going on. You're choking us to death. Do not put fucking NATO troops on our borders. We'll get to that. Also, if Ukraine goes over to the European Union, then one of our biggest trading partners is gone, and we're going to be at an unfair economic disadvantage. So they said this for like 20 years, and everybody's like, nah, fuck you, including the possibility that they were lied to by the West. And then now, because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, they're accelerating Ukraine's ability to join not just the European Union, but NATO, because you want nuclear war, it appears. Fuck you. I don't care. If you don't care, I don't care. And then finally, to show the massive amounts of fucking overall stupidity that are going on, why the US should be staying the fuck out of this, because people are dumb. So Lithuania has just decided to be fucking assholes and block. So there's a little it's an administrative state, I believe it's called Kaliningrad. It's the ability for Russia to have essentially a port on the water, out there in the, I think it's not the Baltics. Anyway, it allows Russia to have a port, and it's on the water. It's separated from Russia, so there's Lithuania in between Kaliningrad and then Belarus, which is kind of, as it points out, a de facto Russian territory. And so they're blocking the rail lines from Kaliningrad through Lithuania to Belarus, because they're saying that, like, this is, technically, as it points out, the they don't want the trade going on because that would violate, like, Russia's embargoes, fucking whatever stupidity. As the article points out, Lithuania appears to have taken the opportunity to poke the bear, with Russia's Article 5 providing security blanket. Yeah, this is how fucking dumb this is. Everybody needs to get the fuck out, because, like, Lithuania is deciding to play gay chicken with fucking Russia. And if Russia strikes first, it triggers Article 5, and we go into World War III. Because you have a historical problem with, as it points out, Russia's brutal post World War II occupation of Lithuania. So you're going to be an asshole, and you're going to go, I got the biggest kids on the block with my back, so I'm just going to like smear shit all over you until you capitulate, or and say fine, whatever, or you don't capitulate and you throw a punch. Yes, this is the type of people that we are dealing with in power. So anyway, 33 minutes on Friday. I'm about done. You're about done. God bless Clarence Thomas.